Good evening. The service is about to begin. We're going to start with some music. So if everyone just come in, take your seat, get comfortable, and prepare yourselves for a wonderful evening.
Wow. That's a tough act to follow. Wow. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. My name's Matthew Dyer. I'm the pastor of the church here, Cedar Ridge Community Church. So just want to welcome you all. It's been a somewhat unusual day, right? How many people had trouble getting here today? A little tricky. I had to dig myself out. Wasn't sure I was going to make it, but managed to get here. So we want to welcome you to Jan's memorial service. It's so good to have you here. We hope you feel very at home. I know the family want everybody to stay on afterwards and enjoy the celebrations of Jan's life and the reception together as well. Before we go any further, I'm just going to pray. So nothing's going to appear on the screen. I'm just going to pray kind of spontaneously. So if you just want to close your eyes and we'll kind of quiet ourselves before we start this service. Let's pray. Lord, we want to thank you for Jan and the incredible woman that she was. And the way in which she lives on now. Lord, we believe as your followers with you. Lord, we also believe that she's with us right now, even if only in spirit, in just the way she invested in our lives and the fruit that our lives are going to bear as a result of that. So, Lord, we come to celebrate, but Lord, we're also here to grieve. We just pray, God, for the family especially. And all that they have been through and all that they are working through, that you would comfort them and that you would be very present in the tender, loving way that only you can be. And we pray that as we come together today, we would be able to do Jan justice. And that's probably a tall order, but we want to be able to express something of our feelings about her life in a really meaningful way. So I just pray you'd help us to do that in the different ways we're going to do it. Songs and speaking and sharing of stories and eating and drinking and all the things that go together today. So be with us, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, I'm just going to share a few words before we start out. A number of people are going to share with us today, and we're going to be hearing all about Jan's life. I mean, the first thing I've got to say is, what an incredible woman Jan was. I mean, it's actually a little bit intimidating to get up here and start talking about somebody who you almost feel, man, could anybody be that amazing? And I know if we were to talk to the family, we could, get some. She probably wasn't perfect. Maybe pretty close, but what an amazing woman. And something I just prayed there. I wanted to kind of explain a little bit about. We've got, I think, two dynamics going on today. One is we're here to celebrate, right? So celebration is about joy, and Jan's life was full of joy. She gave joy to us, right? So we're going to celebrate that by sharing stories and reminiscing and looking back and talking about how she's impacted our lives. And we're going to do that with gusto. At the same time, we're here in grief. We've lost Jan, and we've lost Jan in different ways. That's kind of unique to each of us. And one thing we're going to find out today, I think, as people share, is that we all interacted with Jan in different ways. I mean, she had many facets, many aspects to her life. And some of us are going to find some surprises out today, I think, about things that she was incredibly gifted at and involved in that we maybe didn't realize, because she was so involved in something that we, in the same way as us, and we knew her through that way. Well, she was engaged in life in very different ways as well. Pretty incredible. But we're going to grieve. And so we're going to sort of carry those two emotions through today. So there's going to be times when we're going to be laughing, and that's totally okay. And there's going to be times when we're crying, and that's totally okay. So we're going to kind of embrace those two aspects. And, as we think about Jan's life, and maybe to start off, I just want to talk about the grief and the celebration. We're going to start off talking about celebration. I mentioned this incredible life that she's lived. She was, I think, an amazing wife. Right, Kevin? You're going to share a little bit later. An incredible mother, incredible grandmother. She had this amazing family that she loved and laid her life down for. And so we'll hear from some people about that side of Jan. She was also, is that a picture we're laughing at there? Okay. I want to make sure there's nothing on me. Also, she was a nurse, right? How many of us knew Jan as a nurse? Anybody here from, yeah. So, and apparently a pretty good nurse as well. In fact, she was the go-to person by all accounts, in the family for any things medical, and I think a lot of other people too. And really worked at that side of her life. She was very professional, constantly learning new things. So that I think shows the compassionate side of her life. She was also very compassionate towards animals, apparently an accomplished equestrian. I didn't know that, actually, but I knew more about her. She talked to me a little bit about her involvement in dog rescue, particularly with boxers. So some of us may have known Jan through that aspect of her life, but a woman that exhibited compassion not just to human beings, but to animals too. And then she was also an amazing artist. And I knew a little bit more about the music. I had no idea what an accomplished potter she was. And I have some of her pottery now in my own house, thanks to Kevin. I think there's some examples of that here tonight. So really an incredible woman. The thing that I would say, though, from my experience of Jan, and Jan and Kevin and the family were part of our church community here. So I knew Jan more through that connection. The thing I would say that characterized Jan, and this might sound a bit cliched, it's one word, it's love. I think that's a word you can't overemphasize, but she was just an incredibly loving person, and she showed that love to anybody. She was very accepting. To my knowledge, she didn't have prejudices or biases. She just, if you were in front of her, she loved you and accepted you. And she was also a very honest person. So there was this kind of openness about her, both in terms of accepting others, but also in sharing her own life with others, where she wouldn't pretend to be something she wasn't. She didn't, sometimes in church contexts, unfortunately, people can sort of tend to hide away parts of their lives that they think might not be accepted by other people. There's a lot of, unfortunately, hypocrisy and sort of over-religiosity in church. Jan wasn't like that at all. She was like a breath of fresh air. She was just very honest about her faith, about her doubts, which we all have. She was just very, very honest about it. And I really appreciated that about her. To sort of turn to a spiritual or a religious note, I just wanted to read a scripture that I think, I have to get my glasses here, that kind of exhibits this. When Jesus was at the end of his life, he knew that his life was coming to an end. He shared some very kind of important things with his followers. So, these would be the things I suppose you could say that Jesus mattered most to Jesus, because he's at this really crisis point in his life. And he says this: "A new commandment I give you, love one another." This is in John's Gospel, chapter 13. "Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." So, you can't really say love one another more often in one verse than that. I think Jesus must have really meant that. And that's something that Jan really embodied and lived out. Now, just a little bit later on, Jesus says something which I think is also relevant for us today in celebrating Jan's life. In chapter 15, he says, "Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends." And it's that sacrificial aspect of love that I think typified Jan. And in some ways today, we're here to celebrate Jan's life because she gave something to us. With her life, she didn't hold on to it herself. She made these sacrifices. She let her life be lived in a way that was for other people. And we're the beneficiaries of that. So in that sense, Jan is living on in us. There's fruit from Jan's life that's being born in us today and is going to continue on into the future. And so that's part of what we're celebrating. And that's an amazing thing when you think about it. It's amazing to think the impact we can have on one another. And so I guess at the same time as us celebrating that, there's a challenge there as well, I think, that, what kind of impact are we having? What is our impact on the people around us? Are we indifferent? Are we negative? Are we positive? Are we giving our life away to others? And something that struck me actually as I was talking with some members of the family during this grief process, is the fact that even though there's incredible grief and loss, and there's no minimizing of that, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second, there's also, I think it's fair to say, and I know talking with Kevin and Kelly in particular, that there's no regrets, right? That you guys, obviously you absolutely regret the loss of your mum, but that there was an honesty and an openness of where that love was expressed, both to Jan and from Jan to the family. And that's an amazing thing. And just speaking from a pastoral point of view, in times like this, times of loss, that's not always the case. Very frequently, when we lose people, we do have regrets. We feel there's all things that we should have said. And, there's always going to be those things, right? We could never have expressed to somebody fully how much we feel about them. But something about the family's way of communicating is really beautiful. And I think Jan was obviously very instrumental in that. And I think that also is a challenge for us. To think through, what do we need to say to others? What unexpressed things do we have that we've kind of held on to? Maybe our affection or love for people, or just compliments, those kinds of things that we may be a bit embarrassed to say, or we may feel will just be brushed off because we live in a pretty cynical culture. Maybe today is a good challenge for us to say those things, to put those things right, maybe to ask for forgiveness where we need forgiveness, or to tell somebody that we've forgiven them when there may be some doubt about that. Let's just talk briefly about grief, because that's the other thing that we're addressing here, or embracing as we come together. And celebration of Jan's life shouldn't in any way be a cover-up for the fact that we're all mourning Jan's loss. And we're mourning that in different ways. And that mourning is very real. And again, I think to do Jan's life justice, which is probably impossible, in the time we have tonight, but to do it justice, I think we also have to embrace that. Not just celebrating, but recognizing our sadness. And recognizing, for instance, that I think is there a person in the room that doesn't feel Jan was taken away from us too early? There's something that just seems unfair about that. There's something that doesn't seem right about that. And we can reconcile it in ways that seem appropriate for us. But it's also okay to grieve it and to feel the sadness of it. And I wanted to read another short passage from the Bible, from the Psalms. This is from Psalm 13. And the Psalms are full of really emotional language, and sometimes that's very joyful, sometimes it's very loving, sometimes it's kind of angry, and that can make us feel a little uncomfortable. But there's pretty good evidence that in the ancient Hebrew times, in the sort of the years and years ago in the Jewish tradition, that the rabbis would give people who were grieving or who were feeling hard done to in different ways, or who were just having a tough time with life, they'd give them various psalms and say, just go read that and kind of vent at God. Vent your frustrations, vent your anger, vent your grief. And it was really helpful in not bottling it up, not denying it, but recognizing the emotion for what it was. And so, we're going to do that today as well. But I just wanted to read this one particular psalm that we might be able to relate to with respect to grief. Okay, this is Psalm 13. How long, Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I wrestle with my thoughts, and day after day have sorrow in my heart? How long will my enemy triumph over me? Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death, and my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my foes will rejoice when I fall. But I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing the Lord's praise, for he has been good to me. And I think that's the prevailing sense of Jan's life, is that not only was Jan one who embraced love and gave love away, but I think that in some way Jan's life reflects the heart of God. I mean, who can understand God? If you work it out, please come and tell me afterwards, because I would probably make a lot of money, as a pastor, if I really understood God. I'm a pastor, I'm supposed to. I don't fully understand God. There's so much mystery. But there's one thing that seems real and for certain, is that God is love. And anybody who acts or behaves differently doesn't seem to be close to God. And actually, I think the Bible says that. But Jan was somebody who acted lovingly and kindly and was close to God and somehow reflects the heart of God. So as we come together today, we're kind of caught up and held together in that spirit, the spirit of God's love. So as we celebrate, as we mourn, as we share stories, as we eat and drink later on, as we listen to music throughout this ceremony and the time afterwards, let's just bear that in mind. Let's even breathe in God's love and kindness towards us that is completely unbiased, completely unprejudiced. God loves us no matter what, no matter where we've come from, what we've done, what our beliefs. God loves us. And so in order to do Jan justice today, we're going to celebrate that fact too. Now, we're going to have a few people share, right, Kevin? So I think you're up first. So I'm just going to say one more thing, which is that we've got some people who are set up to share. So they're going to come up one by one in a moment. And then we're going to open it up for general sharing. I'll sort of introduce that piece in a moment. Not everybody is going to have a chance to share, just because of the time. But we really want everybody after the ceremony to stay behind and share stories, informally with one another about Jan. So just want to encourage you to do that. But if you would like to share today, sort of maybe prepare your thoughts a little bit, and we'll have an opportunity for that in a moment. But why don't you come up, Kevin, and just lead us into that part?
Actually, Matthew, I may have messed up the program here a little bit, but
okay.
We're going to have one more hymn here,
okay.
Or one more song from our good friend Spencer Parker, Be Still, and then we're going to open it up for sharing.
Great.
Thank you so much, Matthew.
Sure.
Be still and know that I'm with you. Be still and know that I am here. Be still and know that I'm with you. Be still and know. When darkness comes upon you and covers you with fear and shame, be still and know that I'm with you, and I will say your name. If terror falls upon your bed and sleep no longer comes, remember all the words I say. Be still, and know. When you go through the valley and shadow comes down from the hill, if morning never comes to be still, be still, be still. If you forget the way to go and lose where you've come from, if no one is standing beside you, be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I'm with you. Be still and know that I'm with you. Be still and know I am.
Thank you so much, Spencer. And now I guess we'll start our sharing, Matthew, and I'm sorry for not getting things in order there. So Matthew, I was the first one to share just a little bit, and I first actually want to say a couple of things maybe that I hadn't really intended to say. Thank you all for coming tonight. I don't know, I can't recall who it was, but somebody came up to me in the lobby tonight and said, well, I had said, and I'd said this to many people, that Jan was a prankster, and she loved snow. She knew we were trying to get here, and this was her prank on us. And then someone said to me, and they were right, that if you were a real friend, you'd be here. And there's a lot of people that were planning to be here tonight that couldn't make it. And they all had good reasons, but you came, and I thank you very much for that. So give yourself a hand, all right? Jan was a really, really incredible lady. It's the fascinating thing to me is each of you knew a different facet of her life, from her medical career to raising kids to neighbor, to her music, to her artwork, boxer rescue. I mean, really. I just hope you have an opportunity tonight to talk to some of the folks who came from other aspects of your life that maybe you heard something about but didn't know much about. Because I got to see it all. She's an incredible lady. But I wanted to start us off here with some folks just sharing their Jan stories. I have to tell you, I've been hearing a lot of them over the past several weeks. People calling me up and telling me their little Jan stories, and I know you all have a bunch of them. We were going to kick it off, but I was going to let Matthew maybe be the host for this part of it, if he would, please. So, and I think, Matthew, who do we have up first there? Oh, girls first. Okay.
All right. My name is Calissa. Many of you know me as Kelly. I'm Jan's oldest daughter. This is Lindsay. She's the middle sister. And Ashley's the youngest sister. Ashley's going to start us off. Passionate, emotional, sensitive, feisty, silly. All words you're going to hear tonight to describe my mom. Many of us begin to go about our lives almost as robots. We are sort of wrapped up in a routine. We wake up to an alarm, we brush our teeth, wash our face, we commute to work, we get into our work modes. We reserve the weekends and the holidays and the occasions to relax and reconnect. There's a place you go when you close your eyes and you begin to allow yourself to feel the energy flowing between us. That's the place my mom lived her life. She couldn't turn it off. And it's because of that that she was an extraordinary nurse, an amazing mother, a lover, and a friend, and a dog rescuer. Each of you had your own relationship with my mom and knew a different aspect of her life. It's so wonderful to see all the different circles of her life come together today. And while you may have interacted with my mom in different contexts, I know that you all knew the very same person because my mom never changed who she was. Wherever she was and whoever she was with, she was always herself to the fullest. She was so full of personality, and her presence was always known. Life with her was anything but dull. As a mother, she was warm, compassionate, funny, strict, and she never missed an opportunity to scare the pants off you. As kids, we never knew where she would pop up. Out from behind the shower curtain, outside the basement window, or even out from under the covers of your bed. Yes, there were fake spiders, snakes, roaches, and even fake poop. Growing up, I never knew quite what possessed her to do these things. but I've come to realize that she just loved to get a rise out of people and bring out emotion. She connected with people on a deep level, even when meeting them for the very first time. When she talked with you, she made you feel like you were the most important person in the world. She listened, she really listened, and somehow she always knew just what you needed. She would drag you onto the dance floor. She would pull you into the fun. She would push you to overcome obstacles in your life, and she always did whatever it took to get people going. My mom always stood up for what she believed in and went out of her way to help any person or animal in need. She was the one that you would call in an emergency, and not just me and my sisters, but all of our friends and family, from a medical emergency to emotional crisis. She was always ready to offer advice and help. Our mom had so many sides to her. No matter how you were feeling, she was someone you'd want to be around or talk to on the phone. She was always a positive, vibrant energy in the room, and she was also a goof and never took herself too seriously. I feel blessed to have shared so many experiences with her, but I wasn't done. There will always be a physical void with her not around, but I know that she will always be with us. She guided and sculpted the closeness between us sisters, and I will continue to cherish that. If I were going through a difficult time, I knew she would carry that weight on her shoulders with me. Of course, I would prefer her not to, but that was just who she was, always caring. Being a nurse wasn't just her job, it was who she was. She was an on-call nurse and a second mom to all of our friends. She would hang out with all of us on many late nights, often the life of the party, except for when she was sleeping, because as everyone knows, she could and would sleep anywhere and through anything. I can honestly say that she was my best friend. We talked on the phone daily, and were always planning our next trip to visit each other. She stayed with us for over 2 weeks after the birth of both of my boys, helping me and guiding me. And after my brain surgery, she helped take care of me and my family, putting her own life on hold for months. I couldn't have gotten throughout those times without her, and I always envisioned myself getting the opportunity to pay it back to her as she grew old, many, many, many years from now, of course. But unfortunately, I won't get that chance. But I'm so, so grateful that I got to experience her becoming a Nona to all of our boys, and finally a little girl. She embraced it and lived that role to the fullest. She loved to spoil my boys and say, what happens at Nona's house stays at Nona's house. In other words, they'd always get their way, and she basked in their delight. I know they will forever miss her, and I try and take solace in knowing that she is in each of them. In fact, I have to agree with one of my close friends, Andrea, when she said, we all have a little bit of Jan in us. It is so true, and we always will. Mom, I still feel your warmth. I still feel your presence. I still feel my need for you, and I will forever. I love you. In the spirit of feeling my mom's presence, I'd like to take a moment, if everybody would, to stop and reconnect and close your eyes and join us, if my dad would lead, in 3 O's.
Well, Jan. Okay. We'll get it right.
in three ohms. So please close your eyes and join in with your voices if you would.
Thank you so much. Thank you, girls. So, Matthew, back to you again, and thank you for that.
Okay, so next up is Faye, who is Jan's sister. So Faye, if you'd like to come up. And again, if you just remember to hold it.
Thank you. Well, there you go. She was first on the alms. You all felt it, right? Jan was born in Providence Hospital in Cheverly. I was 7 years old. Boy, was I glad to have another sibling. I was kind of lonely. They said that she could go to sleep with the drop of a hat, but when she was a baby, she never slept. Never slept. I was up half the night, and I'd have to go to school the next day. But, that's the way she was. She was always lively and always waiting for things to happen. I'm going to skip to when she was 5 years old and I was 12 years old. You've heard the expression now in the newspaper about the free-range children? Well, we were the first. When she was 5 and I was 12, we would roam the neighborhood. We had a puppy dog named Taffy, and we took her everywhere. I'd take her down to my school and swing her on the swings. I'd take her to Bellamy's Garden. Some of you have heard about Bellamy's Garden. It was a beautiful garden that my mother loved, and we would swing there. They had koi ponds. We just had a ball. We played in the woods. We left in the morning, came home for lunch, said goodbye, took Taffy somewhere else, and spent another couple hours. We were free-range children. Can't do that nowadays, I guess. So then, as we grew a little older, I played school with her. I wonder why. You all know I'm a teacher, right? Okay. We also did a lot of hair things. Okay. She had hair that knotted. I got to brush her hair most nights. We did hair and nails. You girls look at your hair now. She had that kind of hair too. She never did mine, but I did hers a lot. Then I skipped to when, when she was 7 to 10 and I was 14 to 17, I was a teen. We didn't have a lot in common then. I did a lot of teen things, and she did a lot of little girl things. So I don't have a lot to tell you about that time. You know what teenagers are like, right, girls? Yeah. But then I went off to college, and soon after that, I got married because I was married very young, hence my young kids and my young grandkids. We started having babies early. But she grew up, and they moved to a new house in Englewood Drive, and she had a whole different life with a whole bunch of friends I didn't know. But, and I was married. Then I started having babies, and she loved them. You've seen some pictures of her in her long hair and hippie outfits, and she loved the boys. And then the little girl came along. My God, those children were just so special to her. I know you all remember her so well, and Uncle Kevin. So Kevin came to know her, and I named my son Kevin, but I didn't name him after Kevin. My Kevin came first. But, and then, well, I was having babies, and she was just having the time of her life. Yeah, as my mother said, I don't know what she's doing, but at least she comes home. And then after a while, she had Kelly. And then we were both mothers. Didn't matter that we were 7 years apart. We were both mothers. We shared all that mother stuff. What do you do now? What do you do now? I'm having a problem. Oh, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. What do I do? So I helped her out with that, just like she helped me out with all the nurse stuff later in life. So, and then one summer, she had her babies, and she used to take off summers. And being a teacher, that's why I became a teacher. I took off summers. And I'd go to Ocean City with the kids. I said, hey, Jan, why don't you come to Ocean City? What do you mean? I got 3 kids. I said, well, so do I. I got 3 kids up at the condo. I said, Kevin can come every weekend. My husband, Don, can come every weekend. I said, we got the whole week to ourselves. I said, you bring your 3 kids, and I'll bring my 3 kids. And we'll have a blast. And we did. The At the condo in Ocean City, we were known as the Sisters, with the 6 children and the dogs. We had quite a reputation. I know you cousins all remember the condo. And what's happened at the condo stayed at the condo all summer. So we call that our golden years. I know golden years to you means something different, but we call that our golden years. And we would reminisce about that a lot. As we got older, and our kids got older and started leaving home and having their own babies, we talked on the phone a lot. We called each other quite often. We talked about life. You can just figure out what life is. And we reminisced so much. Reminisced about the good times. As you looked at these pictures today, up here and out there, you'll notice I don't think anybody was not smiling. We were so happy together. She and I had the best lives, I have to say. I have a poem I want to read because she sent this to me and I sent this to her. It says it all. This is by Carrie Martin. I didn't write it. Always sisters and forever friends. We've always been friends, and I know, more than anything, that we always will be. But we're also sisters. And because of that, we share an understanding that goes beyond what 2 friends can share. There are things I can tell you that I can't say to anyone. And I think that you feel the same way about me. I am comforted by that thought and by the knowledge that no matter what happens, I'll always have you and you'll always have me to talk to confide in, and to walk with. And she's still with me. That's real friendship. That's understanding and family love and security and faith. And that to me is great. I love you, Jan.
Well, I've got some things here that I'd like to tell you all about. As Kevin mentioned, everybody here kind of knows Jan from a little different perspective, whether it's a nurse or with the dogs or with her artwork. To me, Jan was always Faye's little sister. So I want to tell you a little story about 2 sisters and my perspective from those 2 sisters. When I first started seeing Faye, Jan was 7 and Faye was 14. I would walk from my house in Landover to their house in Cheverly, and mainly on weekends. Jan was ever present, and we would play cards. Sometimes it would be hearts, but mainly it was crazy eights and go fish. Sometimes, of course, I'm visiting Faye, but sometimes we would do board games. And sometimes it was Monopoly, very rarely. It was usually Parcheesi and Chutes and Ladders. Jan was always around. But when she wasn't around, she had eyes on us. Now, she took very, very seriously her responsibility to make sure her mother knew when Faye and I got a little too close, which made for a little couple uncomfortable discussions with Faye's mother. But Faye knew that Jan would be going to bed, and her parents usually went to bed early too. So we would kind of sneak into the living room. The light would be down low, be very quiet. We would be holding hands. And next thing you know, out from behind a curtain, Jan would pop out, or from under a coffee table, or from behind the sofa. Faye would chase her down the hall to go back to bed. Little did we know what was going to be coming from that experience. So much so, many, many years later, we were in Ocean City, and Jan got me. She got me good. So much so that to this day, I won't go to the bathroom without first looking behind the shower curtain. Now think about that from a guy's perspective. It's a true story. In 1973, our daughter Angie was born. And I don't really know what the time frame was, but Kevin Kesler's parents moved to close to Bethany Beach. And we spent a lot of time with them, just sitting out on the beach, enjoying the girls, enjoying the boys. Sometimes we would sit there in a circle, and there was probably 25 of us all sitting on the beach. And there were a lot of friends Jan had come down, friends of Kelly's and Lindsay's and Ashley's, but there were a lot of people. People sort of gravitated towards Jan. And this may sound a little funny, but to me, Jan was a spider. And she weaved a web of people. And she meticulously connected people to everybody else in the web. Every time somebody new would come along, they would get connected to the web. So much so that my oldest son, Kevin, was doing electrical work, doing residential plugs and switches. But he wanted to learn about the commercial side of being an electrician. Well, Jan, she's always thinking. She says, now, wait a minute. Kevin Kesler has a sister, Kathy, and Bert, who have a commercial electrical company. Maybe I can make something work there. And the next thing you know, Kevin's working for Bert, doing commercial electrical work. Brian, during the summer, he wanted to find a job. Jan had a friend, Anthony, who had a construction company, a home development company, and the next thing you know, Brian's working for Anthony. Of course, Angie felt very influenced by Jan and became a nurse and followed in Jan's footprints. Now, Jan's oldest daughter, Kelly, has a husband, Jason, who had this long life friend, somebody that he grew up with ever since he was a kid. And it turns out at the time, he was a single parent. Well, my daughter was a single parent. And Jan felt like, these two ought to meet. Well, they've been married for almost 3 years now. You kind of get my drift here, what I'm getting at. Jan made things happen. She connected people, and she built this web, and the web is strong, and the web is big. We talk about Jan in the past tense, but she's obviously very alive in our thoughts, in our memories. As you can all see, this is something that everybody feels very deeply about. I think at this point I stand here and I think of story after story, but I think there's only one thing left for me to say, and that's thank you, Jan. It's been a hell of a ride.
Okay, I think we have one more official person to share, Dr. Rios, who worked with Jan. Would you like to come on up? And then we'll be opening up a little bit afterwards.
I met Jan in 1992 at Briggs Cheney Medical Center. And of course, this is from the medical side. However, she always brought her family and everything with her. So I feel I'm part of the family too, for a little bit. And when we met, I noticed she was caring to patients, caring to staff. And then when she was comfortable with everybody, then the jokes, pranks, and puns came out. Now, she, after a while, she referred to me as her work spouse. And I never knew quite why. Judy, Nurse Judy, were we always squabbling? Uh-huh. Because, as already mentioned, she was always right. Forget you, you're the doctor. Forget you, I'm the nurse. This is how it works. Well, anyway. I remember one day we were super busy. And one of our clients came through the door and was tracking in mud on his waffles. He was a construction worker. And so since everybody was busy, I grabbed a broom to go help out. And as we pass in the hallway, because she's busy doing something else, she stops for a brief moment and says, "Are you going somewhere or are you going to do some work?" Caught me by surprise, stop in my tracks. I look at her and she gives me and runs. There was a time, it was a very slow afternoon, and Nurse Judy and Jan and I were in the front office, probably working on policy or procedure or something like that. I'll talk about that in a second, because Jan was good on procedure and Nurse Judy was good on policy. Anyway, we were talking about something, and one of us said something to Jan, and Jan goes, "No, get out of here." And in 3 seconds, Nurse Judy and I jumped up and ran in opposite directions. And everybody had a belly laugh at that also. Since Jan was good on policy, for some reason, she and Nurse Judy would train people that would come to the office, and somehow Jan would kind of take them under her wing, and she would show them how to draw blood and do lab work and how to take vitals and all this sort of thing that the nurses were supposed to do, Angie. And she started writing this stuff down, and then pretty soon started writing it up, and it went into a policy book. So somebody new would come in, and she would tell them how to do things. And if they repeated the question, what would she say? Read the book. So for being an educator, I got a call from one of the gals that she worked with at Briggs Cheney, and then later on a little bit at Secure Medical Care, where Jan's last post was. And it was from Huda Slimani. And she said, "Tell the people that Jan was my mother in the United States." Now, she was from Morocco. She was my mother. And Jan taught her how to take x-rays for us at Briggs Cheney Medical Center. Then she asked Jan for advice. And any time she had a career decision to make, she would call Jan. And I think a lot of people have done that. You call Jan, the go-to person. So Jan told her, "Listen, you get yourself a medical certificate in anything in the field. You go get it, and then you decide if you want to do nursing or not." And she is a nurse today because of that. Like Angie, followed in Jan's footsteps. Huda has become a nurse also. So she sends her love to the family and all the friends. It was the end of a long day at Secure Medical Care. We were tired. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. And we wanted to get out of the office. As we came down the steps and were heading toward the exit, one of the workers comes running behind the group and says, "We missed a patient. There's a patient in room 5. We just walked by room 5 and the light was out. So everybody doubled back, except me. Everybody doubled back. And when they turned on the light, Jan pops off the table, yells at him, and of course everybody starts screaming. Another late day, very tired. We wanted to get out of there. There was only 3 of us, Jan and the secure medical gang, the darkest one in the group of the secure medical gang. She came running up the stairs, and Stephanie went into the bathroom. I came up the stairs and I pounded on the door. We always did that for some reason. If Jan was in there, she'd go, ah! Jan came running up the steps, and I said to Jan, Stephanie, pound on. No, she said, no, wait. And as Stephanie goes to open the door, her face was right there. Stephanie screamed for 2 minutes, but nonstop. She lost one of her 9 lives. And the stories could go on and on and on. Stephanie wasn't here to tell you her horror story, so I told it for her. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, y'all, all y'all, I can't answer the question, why? And maybe only try to ask the question, what? We are not promised tomorrow. We have only now and this moment. This celebration reinforces my resolve, and I hope yours too, that I am to continue to brighten the little corner of my world for those that are around me the best way I can. There is hope in this celebration. Jan believed in a life after death, and it is by faith and grace that we can be with her again.
Okay, so thanks so much for that. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. We're just going to take a few minutes, 10 minutes or so, for anybody else who would like to share something. So if you could just keep these brief, maybe just a kind of a snapshot of Jan's life, something that you'd like to express. If you could put your hand up, and I'm going to try and get round people. If you just introduce who you are, what your connection to Jan was, and then.
My name is Robert. And as Kevin says, he blames me, but quite honestly, I had the honor to meet Jan when she was in junior high school. I was a paper boy, delivering papers in the neighborhood. And Jan was hanging out in the carport of their house. It was a carport at that time. And I saw this good-looking girl up there, and I said, well, let me go deliver the paper, you know? And we were friends from that point ever since. And later on, I don't know how far later on, got her to sneak out of the house. All you kids, close your ears off. And met up with Kevin, and they became a pair ever since. And all I can say is, Kevin blames me, but in the medical physical workings of the universe, y'all were bound to be together anyway. Regardless of whether it was me or somebody else, you're going to be together. And between the two of you, nobody could have kept up with you except Jan. And nobody could have kept up with Jan except you. So, it had to be that way. And in the pastor, you had mentioned not everybody was perfect, and Jan certainly wasn't. And one of her idiosyncrasies was she could mangle lyrics to a song like you wouldn't believe. And it was just so funny. I can't remember any specific incidents, but she had a knack for mangling lyrics to songs. And it was just, it was just one of those things, the imperfections of Jan, I guess I would have to say. And from the time I met her until right now, I love her to death. And I really miss her. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if you want to keep your hand up in the air. Okay, got somebody else. I'm going to check on that side as well. Again, if you could just introduce yourself and your connection to Jan. Thank you.
I just remembered this, so I figured I don't remember things that often. I figured I ought to tell it. When our kids were going to school with their kids, and we were in our different sports and stuff, and our kids kept coming up to us and saying, "You got to meet the Kesslers," and then their kids were going up to them and saying, "You got to meet the Hunts." Now you know they're in trouble right away. So we finally did get together. Okay. That better? Sorry. So ultimately, we did finally get together. And it was a snowstorm, or we lost our power, and so we went over to their house, and they were kind enough to have us over, us and our dogs and our snake, if I remember correctly. And so we all came over there, and we sort of gelled. You know, we partied, we played music. I found out that Jan went to the same church that I went to, and it's named MYF, but I was older, so that's probably why we never saw each other, or perhaps we just never noticed each other, who knows. But then later on I found out that Kevin was a landscaper, a sod buster, just like me, and we worked very close to the same companies. We probably were in different fields, or maybe even the same field, but I'm sure we had the same mud on us sometimes. So we gelled. So we were getting together, we were partying, we were having a good time, and so they said, "Look, you better stay over." So we stayed over, and so we went to bed, and I got up, and, I wasn't as old as I am now, that's impossible, but nonetheless, I was relatively on my way, and so I had to do what nature's thing you have to do without getting into details. And so I go into the bathroom, and I open the door, and and I said, "I wonder why they have this door in the bathroom." Well, come to find out, it was their bedroom, and I was opening the door to the closet. But they caught me in time, right? So they steered me back over, and I went back down, and I laid down, I behaved myself. Now, and you remember that earlier in the story I said we brought some dogs over there. Well, our dog did the same thing. He walked, Super, our Labrador, comes walking into the room, but a little while later, goes into the same, they caught him though. He ended up licking either yours or both of your faces, and then, right, with a lot of dog saliva, which she said was healthy, in her face. And so that's how we met the Kesslers. And I just want to say one other thing. She used to scare the bejubies out of me as well. She would hide places and scare the living you-know-what out of me. But I always liked it, and I loved her, and I still do. And I, as she does, believe in the beyond, and I know that she made that noise happen.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, we've got some people at the back there. You'd have to be right at the back. No, it's not. You good.
Hi. Hello. My name's Katie. I'm this girl's best friend. I'll come up front. Because here's the deal. I didn't write anything, but I know Jan would never forgive me because I love being the center of attention, and she knows it. So I knew she'd never forgive me if I didn't just get up here and say something, right? So that's why I'm here. But no, really, I just
keep
wanted
it
to...
under 15 minutes, then we'll be
okay.
fine. Okay?
You got it. But no, I didn't write anything. I don't know what to say. I just wanted to stand here and just tell all of you that I love Jan and your family so much. You guys are my family. You are, and all of you, the extension, And my mom, my real mom, is back there, and I love her too. but Jan was my second mom, and I have a stepmom, and I still call Jan my second mom. So sorry, Lorna. But it's real. It's true. And she taught me so much about just loving who I am and who everything. And I wear this necklace of hers. I am crafty and artistic, and I'll never ever be what she was in terms of her art. And I look up to her so much and everything. We spent summers together, and I was the first of this crew to be able to spend the Ocean City summer alone, leave my family, and 16 years old. I was living at the beach, and thank you for having that wonderful condo. And so I just can't tell you how much I love you, Jan. You have made me who I am in amongst a lot of other people, but she's everything to me. And thank you for having such a wonderful person to accept me and to her life and to your lives. And she'll be missed, but she'll never be forgotten. And I can't wait to keep her living with you. Okay?
Thank you.
And I'm sorry I was late.
That was great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah. Oh, don't worry.
My name's Beth, and I am Jason's mother. Jason's married to Kelly, and Jan and I shared our 2 grandsons together. And it was the most beautiful thing because there was never any competition. There was never any, it was all fun. Like every time we get together, it was just all, what are we going to do next to get them laughing with us? And we had our own dance that was called the Omanona dance. And, it just went like, Omanona. It was just, and when Jackson got older, he would tell us when he wanted us to do it, when he wanted us to dance. But I love her, I miss her, I love the whole family, and it warms my heart that I'm included in everything about her. But I also have to say one thing. I never saw anyone eat a piece of meat like Jan did. When it came to going out to a restaurant, we'd order like the same thing without knowing it. And I'd always look over, and she would never leave anything on a bone. I couldn't believe it. All of you know it, right? Love everybody. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, there was somebody over here. Yeah. If you, anybody else wants to say anything, just stick your hand up and I'll. Okay, so we've probably got maybe 1 or 2 more. Thank you.
My name's Dean Danielson. I met Kevin and Jan as a junior in high school, Springbrook High School. I think this story is apropos for tonight. In the 2nd of January, 1973, I was involved in a motorcycle accident, compound fracture of my shin bone. I spent 11 months in a cast. I got out of the cast. 2 weeks and 5 days later, Jan was having a party at her house. I'm walking out to my car. I fall on the ice, and I break my leg again. So here we are. I just had surgery back in March where they broke all 3 bones, straightened my leg back out. I just got off crutches. If Jan thinks I'm going to fall tonight, she's crazy. It ain't happening, Jan. But she was one of those people that you could talk to on the phone, go away for 6 months, call again, pick up the phone, and it was just like you never left. You know, you just picked up your conversation and went. Like I said, I've known them for 40 plus years, and she's a sweetheart, and she's going to a better place, and it's our loss, but her gain.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, then we've got time for one more. Yeah.
I'm Charmaine Prusak, a neighbor and friend. I love Jan. Didn't see a lot of her, but my daughter did. She was actually a real mom to my daughter, Kristen. Kristen adored her, and my memory will always live on because last year Kristen got married, and I'll always remember Jan on that platform dancing with the DJ. That spider never stopped, and Stellar never lost her groove.
Thank you. Okay, I thought we can squeeze one more. Okay, right, this will be the last one, and then we'll move on.
Hi, I'm Robbie, dear friend of Jan's. A group of us girls, the girls, hung out together for many years. Michael and Betsy Hunt are guilty for our friendship, and I'm grateful for that. One of my first biggest memories of Jan was at Huntstock. Ken and I were getting ready to leave, and we're walking through the field, and I'm almost tripping on this woman that I just met. And I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? Yeah, I'm just looking at the stars. I'm like, Jan? Yeah. Jan, I think you need to get up. You're in the parking lot. No, I just want to look here at the stars. And I'm like, Ken, go find her husband. I don't remember his name, but hurry up. This woman needs help. That was the first experience of Jan. Since then, she has been a joy in our life, popping in and out of conversations when you think she's not listening. She's in a conversation with someone else, and then she'd say, oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Jan. And then she'd go on with her other conversation. It's like, holy cow. She was a drumming partner of mine. I'm very much introvert, but she was able to invite me into her rhythm of life, her rhythm of friendship. We shared many vacations together, all of us. She was a loving friend. She had a loving family, always inviting us into her. Many stories about the kids, the grandkids, every birth. Just want to say thank you. And you ladies are picking up the slack of my girlfriend, Nietzsche and Betsy. That's it. You got to pick up her slack.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. My mic. Yeah, thanks, everybody, for sharing. I'm going to hand back over to Kevin. You give it that, Kevin.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts about Jan, your memories about Jan. I mean, I'm going to be really, really brief because I really want the sharing to continue, and I want you guys to all have a chance to get out there, get a little bite more to eat and a little more to drink, and share more of these stories. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute, you're next. But I just wanted to say a few things. First, I'm going to finish the story that Robbie started there, laying in the park, because it's true. And Ken did come get me, and I just met Ken, and he was really worried. Your wife is laying out there in the field. People's cars are starting to leave. She's going to get run over. We don't know what to do. She won't leave. So I, run over to Jan, and sure enough, she's laying in the middle of the parking lot. It was a field, and cars are going by, and I said, Jan, are you all right? She looks up at me and she says, oh, people which won't leave me alone. I'm out here looking at the stars. And I'm, whoa. So that was Jan. But again, let me be really brief. I got a whole prepared speech here that I'm going to skip here because I want to tell you some of the highlights of my life with Jan. When I met her, I was actually dating her girlfriend, and snuck out with Robert that night, and me and my buddies in the neighborhood are saying, now what are you going to do, Kevin? I said, well, I won't use her name, but the other girl, she's a really, really nice girl. Jan's a woman. I was 15, all right? I didn't know what a woman was. But she got me, man. She really got me. The beautiful dark eyes. I could never see her pupils. Her eyes were so dark, and she was so full of life, as everybody knew. And she just loved to scare people. But the thing that people didn't say tonight is she loved to be scared. I would come home sometimes when she wasn't expecting me, and she'd be in the closet, working away, and I'd just walk in and I'd say, hey, Jan. Ah! She just loved the adrenaline rush, and if she couldn't give it to you, she didn't mind getting it herself. So she'd be complaining, but she enjoyed it. But you know what? I am a lucky man. That may be hard for you to believe. Our plan was 80 years old or older. We were going to be that little couple, cute couple sitting off the side, while the party was going on, still arm in arm. They used to give me a hard time when we were very young. We were always touching each other, But we were still going to be doing that when we were 80 years old. That was our plan. Well, we didn't get there, okay? But I'll tell you what, we didn't waste any single day. Every single day, or almost every day, I told Jan that I loved her. And she said, oh, really? So why don't you clean the garage? I mean, it was true, honest to God. So that was her. And I was always so proud to be anywhere with her because she was a fine-looking lady. She knew how to dress. She knew how to carry herself. And I knew no matter what kind of environment we've ended up in, that she was going to have a good time. And if other people weren't having a good time, she was going to make it happen. So I am so thankful that I got to spend 48 years of my life with that lady. She was a sweetheart, and I love her so much. And I'm so thankful that her daughters, as it was said earlier, they have a piece of Jan in them, a big piece of Jan in them. I'm just so pleased with how they've been in their lives and brought their grandchildren. And all of their friends, they have a piece of Jan in them. And I just hope tonight that you get the chance to share more Jan stories, because I know there's a lot more to come. And so thank you again for coming. I just cannot believe you all made it here in this ridiculous weather. Again, it was Jan's prank. So please enjoy yourself. We're going to have a lot more music here tonight. I mean, so we have a few acts set up, but Jason Orson is our stage manager. And if you want to play, if you want to sing tonight, or you want to read some poetry, or you just want to tell another Jan story later on using the microphone, go see Jason. He's our stage manager. And we're going to have music, and we're going to have more food in the lobby out there, and some more wine. And we really hope you can stay for a while. I recognize that some people may have to leave because the weather's going to get treacherous, but thank you so much for coming, and thank you for sharing Jan's life with us.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. Ooh, how precious did that grace
tell everybody that doesn't know, that's Jan's drum. Jan played that drum all the time, whenever we played. Take it anywhere, out on the beach, but she would never let anybody else play it. She guarded it very, very carefully. And so we thought that Jan would join us here tonight. So her drum is here to let us feel the vibrations. So this is a song that, again, that I used to sing to Jan and with Jan all the time. And that's why I felt it would be really appropriate to sing tonight. Thank you, Jan. Thank you very much. C'est la vie by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It was one of our favorites. I hope it's one of yours too. And if you know the chorus, please sing. Little technical difficulties here, you know.
Told you I had no time to kill.
Is Mike's mic working? Are you Mike?
I can't hear, so I can't tell.
No. You sound great, Mike. You sound great. C'est la vie. Do you save or turn to brown? Will you scatter them around you? C'est la vie. Do you love? But how am I to know if you don't let your love show for me? C'est la vie. Oh, c'est la vie. Oh, c'est la vie. Who knows? Who cares for me? C'est la vie. In the night, do you light a lover's fire? Do his ashes of desire for you remain? Like the sea, with a love too deep to show, took a storm before my love flowed for you. C'est la vie. Oh, oh, c'est la vie. Oh, c'est la vie. Who knows? Who cares for me? C'est la vie. Like a song, out of tune and out of time. All I needed was a rhyme for you. C'est la vie. Do you give? Do you live from day to day? Is there no song I can play for you? C'est la vie. Come on, sing it with me now. Oh, oh, c'est la vie. Oh, oh, cares for me. C'est la vie.